Good evening, BookTube. This is Johnny. I have been having a quiet evening reading tonight, William H. Gass, A Reader. That's all I've been reading today. According to my diary, I looked at that book, Ghost on the Roof, Selected Essays by Whitman Chambers. I was reading the introduction to the essays, and then I realized that I didn't want to get into another book, so I put it down in the lower level. I didn't really feel like reading the essays because I've been reading, I have other stuff on my to-be read pile. So, and then this morning I started this new book, The Theodicy of Love, Cosmic Conflict and the Problem of Evil by John C. Peckham. And it's pretty philosophical, but I will read it in the mornings because... But this morning I was kind of out of it. And my mind was kind of wandering around. So, but I did read 22 pages of it this morning. It's pretty deep. It's, it demands a lot of your attention, concentration, following the arguments, things like that. And then I worked outside for an hour, had, raked some leaves, mowed the front lawn. Well, I mowed the lawn to pick up the dead leaves instead of just having to rake them all. And then the day just went by, and I watched BookTube, I wrote my diary, I ended on page 939 today. Tomorrow is November the 9th, 2018. It's a Friday once again, and then I go back to the Book Nook, the library used bookstore, and volunteer from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, and my life just keeps flowing by. Here it's November the 8th. It's a Thursday night. It's 9:41. I'm going to go to bed early again because I got up at 5:15. I didn't really take a nap today. I did fall asleep. I was sitting in the easy chair in the living room and I passed out for a while. Probably, maybe 40 minutes. But I didn't show the rest of the thrift store books I got, I think it was yesterday. I found this one at the local Goodwill. This is a novel by William Golding, who's very famous for his novel, The Lord of the Flies. This is William Golding's novel, Close Quarters. I collect the novels of William Golding, and I haven't read any of them. I have Lord of the Flies, The Inheritors, Pincher, Martin, Freefall, The Spire, Darkness Visible, Rites of Passage. I don't have his travel. Egyptian Journal. He wrote a play called Brass Butterfly. He wrote 2 volumes of essays. I don't have those. But I came across this at Goodwill. It sounded kind of interesting. It's a sequel to The Rites of Passage, which was a winner of the Booker Prize in 1980. It says here, Close Quarters, the sequel to one of William Golding's most admired novels, Rites of Passage, winner of the Booker Prize in 1980, recounts the further adventures of the 18th century fighting ship converted at the close of the what's that word? It's Neoponic War, like Napoleonic War, to carry passengers and cargo from England to Australia. The narrative of their southerly voyage unfolds in the pages of the Journal of Edmund Fitzhenry Talbot, a young aristocrat with a future, but vulnerable and unsure of himself aboard ship. He observes for us the human comedy and the gathering tragedy at sea under the iron regime of Captain Anderson. Talbot's account of the sailor's arcane skills in private language and the passenger's distress is masterly. The lumbering progress of the great ship through the tropical seas worsens because of a terrible error in seamanship by a young officer. The ship's top masts are snapped off and she flounders at the mercy of wind and waves. Later, in a calm, unknown frigate drifts toward them with surprising consequences. Night alarms, battle stations, and subsequent relief, including entertainment and a ball with romantic torments for a young Edmund Talbot. Underweight again, but making little progress because the ship's critical condition. Passengers and crew face the implications of being 1,000 miles from nowhere in a dying vessel, as the ship's great keel is to be cleared of weed and sinister flotsam below this waterline. In close quarters, Mr. Golding surpasses the achievement of rites of passage in this continuation of the ship's story, which will eventually form a trilogy. So I found that. And then I found this novel by somebody I never heard of. I looked her up on Amazon. Her name is G.B. Stern. She lived from 1890 to 1973. She was born in London, but also lived in Europe and America. A playwright, novelist. She wrote over 40 novels. I never heard of her. Short story writer. She's best known for her Ramkistis Chronicles, of which the Matriarch is the first. So I found this. And then I showed you this, The Wind-Up Girl, last night. And then I found The President's Club, Inside the World's Most Exclusive Fraternity by Nancy Gibbs and Michael Duffy. These are on the presidency of the first... Well, when I looked at it, it has introduction, then it has Truman and Hoover, and then it has a section Eisenhower and Truman, then Kennedy and his club, and then Johnson and Eisenhower, blood brothers, Nixon and Reagan, the California boys, Johnson and Nixon, two scorpions in a bottle, Nixon and Johnson, brotherhood and blackmail, Nixon and Ford, mercy at all costs, Ford and Reagan, the family feud, Nixon, Ford, and Carter, three men in a funeral, Reagan and Nixon, the exile returns, Bush and Nixon, no good deeds goes unpunished, Bush and Carter, the missionary goes rogue. Then it has 6 presidents, the golden age of the club. Then Bush and Clinton, the rascal and the rebel. Bush and Bush, father and son. Obama and his club, the learning curve. So this was published in 2012. I've seen Nancy Gibbs and Michael Duffy. They've been on NPR. They're presidential historians. So I got that. And then I picked up another book by William Shawcross. I showed it in my Freedom Village Bazaar book sale that I found 2 nonfiction books by William Shawcross. He wrote what was it? Sideshow. Kissinger, Nixon, and the Destruction of Cambodia. I showed you this one. This one is called The Shah's Last Ride, The Fate of an Ally by William Shawcross. This is on the Shah of Iran back in time of, I think it was under President Carter. but my memory does not. Anyway, I like reading. I've heard of this whole episode in Middle Eastern history, and I just wanted to read it. And then I found the Illustrated Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, introduction by the famous poet William Carlos Williams. When I cataloged this, I found out I already had a copy of it in my Walt Whitman collection. Smells mildew. It has the leaves of grass, and then it has all these photos of America. Looks pretty old. Let me see. This came out in... What year did this one come out? 1971. So it has the text, the poems of Leaves of Grass, and then it's illustrated with all these photos of America, of nature and things like that. So I'll probably take this. I can't find my copy, so I'll just keep this until I find the other copy down in the lower level. So that's the used books. Now tomorrow, maybe I'll find some more books that I've taken out of circulation. As I mentioned, that the library, the local library is taking 15,000 books out of circulation, and maybe I'll find some interesting rejects tomorrow. So yeah, so it's 9:50 now. I can go to bed. Tomorrow's a Friday. I don't know. Time still drags. I don't know what it is. I talked to my wife this morning. You know, she's in Denver with our daughter and her family, and she says it's just the time change. Why my body's out of it. It's just really weird. I was thinking tonight, what would it be if I was a widower? If Carol had gone to glory and I was a widower, how would I deal with time? What would I do with my time? I don't know what I do. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll live to be really old. Maybe I'll live to be 100. Who knows? Maybe the Lord will come back. Who knows? So anyway, those are the thrift store books I got yesterday. I can take these down into the lower level. The President's Club, The Wind-Up Girl, the Matriarch by J.B. Stern. I mean, she wrote all kinds of stuff, and nobody hears of her anymore. William Golding, we know from The Lord of the Flies. Reading William Gass Reader, I'm really enjoying this. Reading Theodicy of Love, The Cosmic Conflict and Problem of Evil by John C. Peckham. The Shah's Last Ride, The Fate of an Ally, is that word? Like somebody who, an ally? I can't pronounce that word. Anyway. And so tomorrow, we'll soon be here. So I hope you had a good week. We're coming to the weekend, another weekend. Next week, my wife gets back on the Tuesday afternoon from Denver, Colorado. And yeah, existence just keeps speeding by. So I'll sign off. I'll probably download this tomorrow. So I'll close. Goodbye. Adios.